Hello, tutors, colleagues and peers. Welcome to my presentation about additional language learning in Australia, a trend which is currently experiencing a steep decline. Content attempts to reverse this trend, for example, through the introduction of the new Australian curriculum for languages, have not yet led to the expected success. In this presentation, I hope to outline some of the most important aspects which in my opinion have a direct negative impact on learning additional languages in Australia in general and learning German language learning in particular at Blakeview Primary School, in the school where I work as a teacher. In this presentation, I'm arguing that cultural and family values around learning German as an additional language are the core motivations for greater parental involvement in primary schools in Australia, which consequently leads to more positive student attitudes towards additional language learning and, in turn, better learning outcomes. I'm also arguing here that the existing concept of cultural and family values towards learning an additional language in Australia needs to be reassessed and replaced by a new and more positive one, which will promote a positive attitude to additional language learning. Please go to my next slide. Learning does not happen in a vacuum. It is enclosed in cultural context and formed by cultural values and norms. According to Lev Vygotsky's 1962 theory of social development, children learn through their interactions and communications with others. In the first instance, parents guide and support them. They lead them, they teach them. Although a parent's role in their children's learning and degree of their influence on the children's learning environment change as the children grow, one thing remains constant. Parents are their children's learning models. In response to a commonly presented picture of willing teachers on one side and eager learners on the other, Goodenough in 1990 raises the questions: where are the parents who do not see their role as one of pairing information and encouraging the understanding? Where are the children who do not wish to learn or perform in the first place, or who regard as useless what the teaching adult is presenting? Parents' attitudes towards education and their core values can motivate their children and show them how to take the responsibility of their own educational path. Could you please go to my next slide? Several researchers have discovered that one of the key characteristics of successful additional language learning programs is parental involvement and support for the program. Recent research by the U.S. Department of Education highlights that parental engagement enhances a school's learning environment. The data below shows that students whose parents are involved in their learning enjoy learning and achieve greater results than students whose parents are less involved in their school life. Having both parents highly involved makes a greater positive difference than having little involvement from both parents. However, it's better than having no parental involvement at all. Although intelligence, diligence, talent and genetics all play significant roles in students' development and learning outcomes, equally important is the support they receive from their parents. Students with parents who are involved in learning tend to have fewer behavioral problems, positive attitudes towards learning, and better academic performance, and are more likely to complete high school than students whose parents are not involved in their school life. In my case study I conducted in my own school, my Blakeview Primary School, regarding the role of parental involvement in the children's German language learning, students were asked to reflect upon their parents' level of involvement in the German language learning. Most students, unfortunately, 72% of them, claim that their parents do not encourage them to learn German. 24% of students were not sure if their parents promote the learning of German, and only tiny 4% gave a positive response. What clearly emerged from the analysis and observation is the fact that students reported little or no motivation for learning German, and to a large extent it can be explained through an almost complete lack of parental interest in learning an additional language. Therefore, student attitudes towards learning an additional language can be considered directly linked to parent involvement in their learning. Please go to my next slide. Rokic in 1965 stated, "An attitude is a relatively enduring organization of beliefs around an object or a situation predisposing one to respond in some preferential manner." This statement suggests that no student was born liking or disliking a foreign language. An attitude is something that has been learned, and if students walk into the German classroom with an obvious negative attitude, it raises the question, who teaches the negative attitudes to the students? The focus of this slide is to explore reasons why parents may become disengaged and show little or no interest to learning an additional language. Based on prior analysis of existing research in the field of second language learning and my own case study, it is important to emphasize the fact that language education in Australia is far behind in its development in comparison with European language education. According to Turner 2013, there are two main reasons which do not allow additional language learning in Australia to take a step forward. Firstly, it is lack of community awareness that learning a foreign language is an additional value and leads to effective linguistic skills, the importance of which is constantly rising. Secondly, a widespread belief that learning a language is not necessary for Australians, which was passed on by a former Australia's Foreign Minister, Alexander Downer. Learning foreign languages is a good thing, but English is the language of the world. Foreign political and business leaders increasingly speak our language, and we are privileged because of that, he said. The message has been widely accepted by the older generation and passed on to their children. Both of the above factors shape community opinion, including the opinion of parents, and have a direct impact on additional language learning. Let's take a closer look at the following data. 3 decades ago, 40% of Year 12 students studied a foreign language. Now, it's about 13, of whom less than 6% are studying Asian languages. Fewer than half of primary and secondary students study foreign languages. The interviews with parents conducted in my research at Blakeview Primary School reveal that a large number of parents do not value the learning of German, considering it to be unnecessary, useless, and an annoying school subject for their children. A large number of students also argued that their parents' attitudes towards German language learning exactly as bad, as negative as theirs. Taking into account all of the above perspectives, we can conclude that the cultural and family values of German language learning is the core motivation for greater parental involvement and has a direct impact on student attitudes towards language learning and learning outcomes. Now please go to the next slide. Referring to the existing analysis of the Australian education system, Turner emphasises the absence of established values in relation to the study of a foreign language and underlines the fact that Australian students are unlikely to devote much time to learning a second language. Therefore, their achievements can be considered undistinguished. This contradicts the widespread recognition of bilingualism as one of the most important values in Australia, which is also not at all reflected in language education. My own case study has revealed a big issue in the field of the family values about German language learning, which has a great negative impact on student attitude and behavior in German room at Blackview Primary School. Parents approaching me and my colleague consider learning of German unnecessary and not useful for their children, and claim they do not care about their children's language learning outcomes. The results of my case study attracted the attention of the leadership and my colleagues at Blackview Primary School, and a decision has been made in first instance to work with parents in order to promote the benefits of additional language learning and better global awareness of students and their parents. I strongly believe that my case provides insights which can illuminate the universal picture. Therefore, I can consider that more research about existing cultural and family values about additional language learning is urgently needed. The current concept should be reassessed by professionals and potentially replaced by a new, more productive one which will promote positive attitudes towards additional language learning in Australia. Thank you for your attention.